2026 F1 season is slowly defrosting as the cars go out there in real life around the circuit to Barcelona for a shakedown ahead of the pre-season testing proper. And so I thought we need to do our own little shakedown race, as it were, and take to this track virtually with a bunch of the 2026 F1 cars, with a couple of them now with the updated proper 2026 liveries, like that beautiful Red Bull you just saw. We've got the semi-new Audi F1 livery that actually got revealed to us all back in November, it seems like, basically. Obviously, you saw at the very start of the video the brand new Ferrari with the slightly controversial white top and a couple of the other new teams as well. But the shakedown, it's all about pushing the limits, making mistakes, and trying to find the performance. And that's what the teams are doing IRL, and that's what we're going to do around here, and push the limits to find out if the racing could be improved around Barcelona, because it's always hit and miss around Catalonia. And I think pretty much for every circuit there's going to be a big question mark about how things are going to go, how the race will pan out. But one thing that I've been surprised about from Shakedown is the reliability. Apart from maybe the newer teams, the old established teams, very reliable compared to their 2014 numbers, let's say, of laps done, which has been very impressive in such a big year of change. And those changes include active aerodynamics, of course, where the rear and the front wing now move in unison on the straight to lower the drag and then close again for the corners. And we've actually seen that for the first time in real life in the shakedowns and some of the team's launches, which has been very strange, I think you'll agree, for all of us F1 fans. Not used to seeing the front wing changing and looking so dramatic in the case of Ferrari's front wing solution compared to like Mercedes with a bit of a shallower wing active aero on the front side. And then on top of the active aero, of course, we've got the overtake mode, the extra battery dump to try and get an extra boost and make that pass over the next lap after you're 1 second behind the car. And then we've got boost mode, which is basically the ERS usage that we've all known for the last era of Formula 1. So a few new little tools to work with in the world of Formula 1, and no one's sure how those are going to work, but we're going to have our own little fun today and do a shakedown race here at the Circuit de Catalunya, driving that white and red Ferrari from last place, a grid of 17 cars. The Mercedes on pole. Is that a sign of things to come for this season? The Red Bull alongside as we get going to lights out. We're going to have a slow getaway just because of the Assetto Corsa AI being a little bit laggy on the start. Active Aero being available immediately. I don't know if that's going to be the case in real life, if Active Aero will immediately be available. And if it is, I suspect there'll be a bit of game playing of having it closed for the initial traction phase and then opening up as we make a beautiful little double overtake there, by the way, on the Cadillac and the Haas up to P13, now behind Pierre Gasly. As we go through the deployment modes on the top, you'll see that's override mode. That's how it's noted here in this 2026 mod on Assetto Corsa. Of course, the official name of it now is... Well, hang on a minute. Oh, disaster! Disaster! I think that's Perez crashing with Piastri. Two cars are out as we give chase to Pierre Gasly all over the back of the Alpine with a slightly, well, improved upon livery. Fantastical livery, I feel like you will agree, in this mod. I was going to say, yeah, override mode in this mod is the overtake mode, as it will be said in real life in the commentary come the first race, not the Australian Grand Prix. So you use overtake / override. It's, you know, interchangeable, I feel, but, you know, if you want to stick with the F1 proper terminology, it's overtake mode. And I'm actually not going to use it in this race until after lap 2, just because the AI, they can't use it in the way it's intended. So just to level the playing field a bit. But right now we don't need overtake mode to try and get Pierre Gasly, both of us with the active aero open, probably using a little bit of battery, and he actually outbrakes as we go for this switchback. And look at this, inches away from a bit of contact. But what incredible racing with the Alpine, going from right to left on the outside of turn 3 to get the move finally into P10. Yellow flags, I suspect that's probably still for Piastri and Perez on the side of the road. On the top, you'll see there, I'm actually adjusting brake bias. I forgot to do that on the opening lap, but I found if you try this mod from RSS, I find the rear end is very snappy. I think a lot of that is also maybe just due to muscle memory of being too used to the ground effect era of downforce, but I also think it's to do with the lack of MGH in the engine. We don't have that anymore. It's just MGK, and that means that there's a lot more stress, I think, on the braking, trying to recover that energy. And so I think you need to actually put the brake bias to the front to try and negate that a little bit with this mod. And maybe, you know, it's obviously we don't really have the data. F1 shut it off after halfway through the shakedown day 1. I guess we'll have to wait till testing to maybe see any inkling of the drivers in real life adjusting brake bias in that way to set up the car. But now this is our first use of overtake mode, or override as it is in this mod, and it's ridiculous how much extra speed you get. Of course, these AI aren't simulating it, so it'll be less dramatic when it's overtake mode versus some battery usage or someone else's overtake mode. If there's a overtake mode train, which might be a thing, in the same way DRS was used last year and previous years, there might be an overtake mode train because there's a load of you getting overtake mode off each other. It may just be a case of the battery gets negated. These are all questions that we all have and no answers to until we really turn the first wheels in a race situation, because even testing at Bahrain is not going to give us an inkling about that. It's just going to give us, maybe an inkling about the race pace, the long runs and stuff. And even then, especially in a year like this where there's so much change, the teams are probably really sandbagging, really trying to fluff their data, with higher fuel loads, different kind of setups and whatnot, trying to hide what they've got going on. And that's what makes it very, very intriguing, because compared to last year where it felt like we already had a very good sense of how the 2025 season might go in terms of some of that data. As we close up to Behrman, I feel like I'm definitely comfier now with these 2026 cars in terms of the lower downforce and driving with that, lifting off a bit earlier in some corners, going down a gear where you need to, and then again using that ridiculous overtake mode to get the pass on Hadjar in that gorgeous Red Bull, I gotta say. As we go around the outside of the McLaren, we don't know what the McLaren looks like yet, although, as I said on a live stream recently, I feel like the McLaren, as Lando Norris dives it down the inside, and I mean, maybe a little bit of karma there. He did go for the kamikaze repass on me, and we just kind of twatted him out of the way. So both the McLarens out of the race. That might be a scenario many F1 fans are hoping for into the season with the reigning world champions, but who knows, But I was going to say, yeah, we don't know what the McLaren looks like. I suspect the McLaren's going to look the exact same, because if you look at the shakedown livery, if you look at the black lines, it's exactly like their last 2 years' livery. So, yeah, take of that what you will. But we're up into P5 as we're soaring away at the steering wheel. There's no other way to really describe it, as we're using battery as much as we can, going to high, then got enough for overtake mode now onto the final lap. Active era also open. We're flying along. We get Kimi Antonelli. Can we get onto the podium? Verstappen's up next. Then it's our teammate Lewis Hamilton. We're in Leclerc's Ferrari. And then Russell's been leading this race since the get-go. But can we have a little scrap? Leclerc versus Verstappen here, technically, basically, driving his car. Can we get in the mixer for third place? It's actually quite close, to be fair, between the top three. We've not got too much battery to spare. We've got enough to maybe cheekily use override mode in the upcoming section. Through this left-hander, we actually go for the dive, and Verstappen does not flinch. He doesn't go defensive, but now, bit of overtake mode. Oh, Verstappen closes the door. Incredibly realistic from Verstappen's AI, as we're now soaring away, banging tyres. And I gotta say, that looks like a fight Leclerc and Verstappen would have IRL if they were that close together, equalise on pace. Unbelievable levels of realism here in the 2026 F1 mod. That was insane. But we live to fight and continue on for third place. Bit sheepish, We had to really, you'll notice these cars are very on the edge because of the downforce. But in the opposite way, I think if you listen to some of the coverage, Antonelli actually said these cars seem more predictable, so maybe the mod doesn't entirely simulate it one-to-one, and maybe actually will, you know, enjoy more predictability when it comes to the F1 26 DLC on F1 25, of course. But that has been a very fun little shakedown race of F1 26.